watch out for that she shares in her video. And now
Today, I am going to show you how to combine some Cricut foiling techniques with your Distress Oxide sprays to create some beautiful Christmas card backgrounds. I am so excited to share this project with you. This video is going to be packed full of information, so get ready to learn something new. Here are the items you're going to need to create the foiled pattern backgrounds. I'm going to be using mixed media paper to layer my Distress Oxide inks onto. I found that mixed media paper holds up to all the layers of ink much better than watercolor paper. For the foiled images, I'm going to be using Cricut foil transfer sheets. These come in 4x6 and 12x12 sizes. These cards are small enough to create with the Joy, or you can create them with the Maker or an Explore machine. To transfer the foiled designs onto the card base, you're going to need a Cricut foil transfer tool. If you do not own one of these tools, you'll need to make sure that you purchase the one that is designed for your machine. The foil transfer tool for the Joy is smaller and only has one foil transfer tip. The foil transfer tool for the Maker and Explore is a little larger and has 3 tips, a fine, a medium, and a bold. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make the foil transfers on both sizes of machines. Before we get started with our Cricut, we need to create our backgrounds. I'm going to be using Distress Oxide sprays today on the mixed media paper. Many of you probably have these sprays in your collection and know how they work. There are 3 simple ways that I like to layer these sprays, and I'm going to show you them really quickly because I want to make sure we get to the foiling part of the video. One way you can add color to backgrounds is by simply just spraying the paper with different colors. I've placed my paper onto my glass mat, and I'm going to spray a few shades of green onto the paper. To prevent the ink from getting all over the place, I have put down a protective shield. You could also use a splat box if you have one. If you want a fine mist, push that cap all the way down completely. If you just want some droplets, push that cap down part way and you'll get some really big drops on your paper. You can create layers and layers of color this way. And I found that it works best if you allow the ink to dry between layers. After these have sat for a few minutes, I'll come back and add another layer of color. You can continue to layer colors until you get the look that you want. Here I have 2 completed backgrounds using the same colors of Distress Oxide spray. They look slightly different. One has more layers of color than the other, and you can see how much depth and texture it has because I added multiple layers. Another way to easily add color with these sprays is with the use of acetate. On this cardstock, I did mask off the lower half so that it doesn't get any spray on it. I'm going to spray some red hues onto the acetate, and I'm going to allow them to mix and meld together. Then I'll press this acetate onto the paper. This gives you a solid matte look to your background. You can continue to add more layers of color with this method. These Distress Oxide sprays are water reactive, which means that I can add more layers of color with splatters of water or watered down ink. I like to use a paintbrush for this, but you can use a toothbrush or an old stenciling brush. Each one will give you a different sized water droplet. After adding layers of color to the background, I'm going to splatter water over it. You're going to see that the color starts to change right away. To me, the water almost reactivates the color. Wherever you leave the water drops, you're going to see it darken in those areas. If you use a paper towel to remove the water, it's going to remove the color. For those of you who are novices at using these sprays, this was just a quick tutorial to help you create some simple backgrounds. As you play with these, you'll discover more and more layering techniques. For those of you who use these sprays often, I would love to know how you use them. Go ahead and post those in the comments for others to be inspired by. All right, I'm going to set these aside to dry. I don't want any moisture on these backgrounds when I begin the foiling process. We're going to head into Cricut Design Space to start creating our foiled images. I am using the Windows version of Design Space. I'm using version 7.6.172. We are going to be uploading an SVG I created for the background. This SVG is a gift for you as an attendee of the Cardmaker Success Summit. If you do not want to use this image, there are some wonderful backgrounds you can use in the Cricut library or some amazing doodle SVGs out there on different sites. I'm going to upload this image onto my canvas. Before we move any further, we need to change the size of this design to match our card. I'm going to change the size to 5.25 inches wide by 4 inches high, which is a little smaller than an A2 size card. I want to create a frame around my inked background, so I'm making it a little bit smaller. To change the size, click on the grouped image on your canvas, then go up to Size in the edit bar above the canvas. You will need to click that little unlock icon. This will allow you to change the width and the height. Change the width to your desired size. I'm going to change mine to 5¼ inches wide. Hit the return or enter key, then change the height. I'm going to change mine to 4 inches high. Hit the enter or return key and your group of images will change to the size that you're going to need for your card front. Now we're going to change that holly layer so that it will be foiled. When you take a look at the two layers in this SVG, they're both showing as basic cut layers. This means that the images will cut out of your material. We want that holly layer to be foiled, so we're going to need to make changes to the line type. At the top of the screen, you're going to see the word Operation with a drop-down menu. These are your line types. The line type tells your machine how to interact with the material. If the line type is a cut, the objects will cut. If the line type is draw, the objects will be drawn. So if you take a look at the list of line types, you're going to see that I have quite a few of them available. This is because my machine is set to my maker. Each machine has a different set of line types. The Explorer has a few less, and the Joy has the least. All three machines have the foil option, which is the line type we're going to be using on that holly background. I'm going to show you the Maker first, then the Explorer, then the Joy. So I've selected Maker under the machine type so that the list of line types matches the Maker machine. To change the line type, I'm going to select the holly layer in the Layers panel. You're going to know that it is selected because it has turned a darker shade of gray. While the image is selected, I'm going to go to the line type list and select Foil. With the Maker, I have a tip option. I'm going to choose Medium Tip. After we make those changes, the image in the Layers panel has changed from Basic Cut to Foil. To choose the color of foil you want to use, you can select it in the line type swatch list. Next to the line type list is a little outlined square. When you click on it, the list of foil colors becomes available. You can choose the color of foil you want to use. The colors will change on your image when you change the color of the foil. If you have an Explorer machine, you're going to follow the same steps. Choose the Explorer machine in the machine list first. Select the image in the Layers panel, then change the line type to foil. Again, you have 3 tip options. This time I'm going to choose bold, and you're going to see that the lines are a little thicker than they were last time. I'm going to change the swatch to the color of foil I'm going to be using, and you'll see the changes to my image on the canvas. For those who have the Joy, you only have 1 tip option. After you have selected your machine, you're going to select the image in the Layers panel and click on the line type list. When you select foil, you will not see any tip options because that joy only has one tip. After changing the line type to foil, you can choose the foil color in the swatch list. All right, how many of you are taking a bunch of notes right now? Is this something that's new to you, or have you used your foiling tool before? Before we start foiling our design, there's one more thing we need to do. When you look at the Layers panel, you have a foil layer and a basic cut layer. The foil layer is the design that will be drawn with the foil transfer tool, and the basic cut is the rectangle that will be cut around the foil design to create the card front. If we click on Make It right now, you're going to see that these images are on two different mats. Cricut has made the assumption that these two images are going to be created on two separate materials. In order for the foiled design to draw on that cut rectangle, we need to attach these two layers together. When you attach, you're telling the Cricut where to draw the foiled image. To attach these layers together, select all the images and click on the Attach tool in the lower right side of the canvas. Now when I choose Make It, the foiled layers are attached to the rectangle cut. The next step is not necessary, but I have found that it makes foiling cards a lot easier. Here in my mat preview, the card design is in the upper left corner of the mat. I'm going to move this to a lower portion of the mat to make it easier to manage this project when it's in my machine. This is going to make more sense when we're foiling the project. I'm going to zoom in on the mat and drag the image down and line the top of the image up with the 3-inch mark. Now I'm going to select Continue so that I can select the material and load the tools. I'm going to choose heavyweight cardstock for this card. The directions are showing me that I need to load my foiling tool into the cradle. So let's go ahead and take a look at what this is going to look like on the Maker and Joy machines. And I'll show you how to lay the foil sheet onto your cardstock. In the Maker or Explorer machine, you're going to load the foil transfer tool into the cradle that holds your cutting blade. You will be prompted to load the tip that you are using into the transfer tool before you load it into the machine. You will also need to remove the cutting blade and replace it with the foil transfer tool. Don't forget to secure the clamp once the foil transfer tool is in place. Now let's place our transfer sheet onto our cardstock so that we can load it into our machine. Your foil transfer sheet will need to be secured to the cardstock. Each pack of foil transfer sheets comes with some strips of tape to help you secure the foil. You are also going to want to make sure that your foil is cut to the same size of your project. You're going to place your material onto the mat that is recommended for that product. I'm using mixed media paper, so I'm going to use a green standard grip mat. Since I moved that project to the 3-inch mark in design space, I'm going to lay my paper down just like it was placed in the mat preview. Now we're going to place the foil over our project. You want to make sure that all of the ink has been dried and is not tacky. If you have used any masking material, you're going to want to leave that mask on the paper. This is going to prevent any foil from getting onto that portion of the project. Like most foil papers, these are thin and fickle. I have discovered a few tricks that help. My first tip is to start off the mat and attach your foil to the tape. I like to place mine on a glass mat and lay the tape that comes with the foil pack along the shorter edge of the foil. I can just pick this up and lay it over my project. Normally, you would have placed your material in the upper left corner, then tried to offset the foil because the Cricut machine starts at about 1/4 of an inch from the edge. This is one of the reasons why I moved my project down to the 3-inch mark. I can lay my foil right over the paper, and I know that my Cricut is going to start transferring at this starting point. Now that I have one side of the foil adhered in place, I'm going to place tape onto the opposite side, and I'm making sure that the foil is pulled tight and without wrinkles. After the two sides are secured, I'm going to add the other strips of tape. All right, now that the foil is secured to my project, I'm going to load the mat into my machine and press go. Once the foiling is complete, do not unload your mat. I'm going to say that again. Do not unload your mat. Instead, you're going to carefully pull off the foil from the project while it's still loaded in the machine. Now, if my project had been placed in the upper left corner, this would be a little difficult to get that foil removed. Moving that project down the mat gives me more space to work with. The next step will be cutting the design. So we need to replace that foil transfer tool with the cutting blade, and then I can press the go button. For those who own the Joy, the steps are the same. We're going to be using a mat for this project, so you will need to choose On Mat in Mat Preview. Again, I'm going to move that object down just a little bit. I'm going to be placing the top of the card at the 1-inch mark, and this is going to make it easier to apply the foil and remove the foil when it's finished transferring. Before you start, you will need to place the foil transfer tool into the cradle that holds your cutting blade. Since we're using a mat for this project, place your material onto the mat that is designed to hold that project, then adhere the foil to the project using the tape that came with your foil transfer sheets. Load the project into your Joy and select Go on your Design Space screen. Once the foiling is complete, do not remove your mat. Instead, remove the foiling material, replace the foil transfer tool with the cutting blade, and select Continue on your Design Space screen. All right, so now we have all of our backgrounds foiled. The first one has some green sprays with gold foiling. The second one is a mix of pinks and mahogany with a rose gold foil. The third was created with acetate, and I chose green foil for this background. It also has a masked edge, and when I peel it off, we have a beautiful white base for the card. I also have a blue background that was masked with aqua foil, and the last piece is a green mix of color with silver foil. I would love to know which one is your favorite. All right, we are getting to the end of our time together. So I'm going to quickly assemble a card using one of the green backgrounds. When I'm finished with the assembly, I will give you a peek at two of the other cards I created with these foiled pieces. For this card, I'm going to be using craft paper for the background and a pine cone that I've cut out. I'm going to quickly add some vintage photo ink to the edges of those pine cone pieces. Then I'm going to piece these die cuts together with some foam tape. The pieces on this pine cone match at the top and go together really easy. I like cards with lots of layers and texture, but if you would rather glue these pieces together for a flatter card, feel free to do that. Now that the pine cone is assembled, I'm going to layer some pine boughs onto the card. I cut these from two colors of green cardstock so that I had a little bit of color variation, and I'm bending the branches slightly before I adhere them in place. After the layers of pine are down, I'm going to add the pine cone and top it with another pine branch. Then I'm going to add another little bit of pine sticking out of the top. I wanted a little bit of snow on this pine cone, so I grabbed a white gel pen and drew that onto the seeds. If you'd like, you could also use texture paste to create the look of snow. I love how something as simple as a white gel pen can really bring a die cut to life. At the base of the card, I'm laying down a piece of burlap ribbon. This brings some more texture to the card and grounds all the elements. For my sentiment, I have the word Christmas, which has been cut from red cardstock and layered onto vellum. And I have the word Merry, which has been heat embossed onto craft paper. To bring some more red to the design, I'm going to add 3 little dots at the top of the pine cone, and this card is complete. This is a really simple design, but that foiled background just brings all of these elements to life, and everything comes together beautifully. Before I go, I want to show you 2 more cards I created with those foiled backgrounds. Again, these are simple designs that shine with those foiled images and mix of sprays. Both of these card designs were masked so that I would have a white band at the base of the design. I added some die cuts to each of these and added some simple sentiments. Like I said, these designs are really simple, but they come to life with a foil design you created on your Cricut. I want to thank you for joining me for this class and for being an attendee at the Cardmaker Success Summit. Don't forget to grab that free SVG download so that you can make these foiled background Christmas cards. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I can't wait to see what you create.